download. This is crazy.
All right,
Okay. Yeah.
all right, all right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the 10x Developer Podcasts. Another week to talk about AI. I would like to hear back
Another
from
exciting week. Yeah.
another exciting week, man. Another exciting week. I would like to hear from our people, maybe in the chat or maybe in the community or somewhere, just to know um if they're really enjoying this, if they're getting it. I know we have, I think, on the average 80 views every week. I
Mm,
wonder if if the 80 people viewing this every week, if they're really enjoying it, if they're getting
mm,
value. I
mm.
would like to know. So if you can send us an email at hello@sublian.com or google@sublian.com, just shoot us an email. You can drop a comment on social media anywhere at Sublian. I think it would be nice. It would be nice if we can have that. So thank you for joining us every week, and thank you for joining us today and watching if you're watching. I know we've never said this before, but like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. I think people just say
Yeah,
this a
I
lot of
don't think we
people.
haven't done that. Yeah. We became like a real podcast now then.
Yeah,
Like and subscribe, they always point
like
like down.
like and subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh,
So another
yeah,
week. You
we
want to
got some
jump
bunch
in?
of stories today, don't we?
Yeah, interesting stuff. So, Google is firing on all cylinders every week. Every
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, speaking of Google, let me start with that. So, Google released Gemini CLI, and I think that happened last week, and the whole social media was on fire. I mean, the one interesting aspect of the CLI is it's actually open source,
Oh.
which is a very interesting move if you think about that, because every other alternative out there not really open source, like Codex and Claude Code out there, but this is completely open source. Not only that, they've been very generous. So all you have to do, even you don't even have to get an API key. All you
Oh
have to do
wow.
is that sort of sign up with your personal account, personal Google account, if you want. And then out of the box, you get this Gemini 2.5 Pro, which is like the top of the line model, which has this a million token context, I think. So it's obviously a very large context window. And you get like 60 requests per minute and 1,000 free requests per day. So if you ask me, I feel like that's pretty much what you need to sort of work on your project and code base day to day for free.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, and if you want to upgrade, sort of you need a higher limit, then obviously you can sign up for standard and enterprise tiers. But that's kind of interesting, if you ask me.
So
So mhm,
yeah. So I wanted to ask, like, when you say all you need to work, right? I want to get like context, like what you mean. So let's say I am a developer and I want to use this. How do I
yeah.
get started? Like, how do I get started using
Yeah,
this?
so if you let me post that the GitHub link in here for everyone to quickly check. So all you have to do is sort of an NPX, which is also a very interesting move if you ask me. So it's obviously terminal based like Claude Code or
Yeah.
Codex. So all you have to do is just npx and the URL, and it will download the Gemini. You go through sort of installation step, all terminal based. Terminal
Yeah.
based UIs are becoming very, very sophisticated, by the way.
Yeah.
And boom, are you able to run? I mean, I just played with it. I was able to get up and running and build a Discord bot just to check it out in sort of 5 minutes.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Um,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
so having this AI, these models run on CLI is actually something very interesting because our dev agent runs on CLI, right?
right,
And then
right.
I can remember I was very skeptical about it. I was like, can't we get an interface for this
Uh,
thing? Maybe we should build a
yeah,
sandbox or something where people can
yeah,
go. I mean,
yeah.
but having more CLI tools is also something that, because it makes it interesting for you to just do, the way you
Very
just do npm
interesting.
install. Yeah, so
So, I mean,
you
this
just
is just becoming a weird playground where that Obviously, the VS Code sort of extension space is so much saturated now with Cursor and GitHub Copilot, and there's so many players out there now, right? So
Yeah,
they're going after terminal, which I think decouples. I mean, Google building something on VS Code is probably doesn't. Even though they haven't, I think Gemini Copilot, but terminal is sort of becoming popular, and there is obviously limitation working in terminal versus a rich editor like VS Code, right?
yeah,
So I foresee, based on workflows I've noticed and I use, this will be more like parallel way of working, right? You working on your VS Code on your particular story that you're working on, and you
yeah,
have this Gemini CLI running, doing research, bug fixes, and other stuff for you in parallel.
yeah. So and
Uh,
then it's not code completion like Copilot. It is actually like code generation.
yeah, this is very agentic, right? So it's sort of
Agentic.
autonomous working behind there. I mean, it will ask. I mean, obviously, I think the default version doesn't run on Sandbox, which could be a security issue. But there are docs out there you can slowly upgrade to. But I liked one thing about this CLI, which like every
Oh,
time it was trying to run a terminal command, it sort of asked for my permission. Um, so so that way it's very transparent. You know what commands it's running, because that's one concern people have, right? Oh, this is local. That means it has access to all my files in my system. What if it
yeah,
deletes something?
yeah.
What if it reads something? So there are mechanism how you can do sort of isolations for that.
Oh wow,
But
wow.
this goes back to saying that there is
That's
no
interesting.
reason for any developer out there, even if you're from emerging country, India, Africa, to not use something like this, right? I mean,
Wow.
it's free, 1,000 requests. I mean, what else can you do? But there is, I mean, to be fair, I got some, I saw some feedback, people obviously comparing this with Claude Code and all that. I mean,
Yeah.
people are still saying Claude Code is performing better on similar issues, where they're testing with giving same issues to Codex, Gemini, and Claude Code just to make a comparison. I mean, Claude, I think, is
Yeah.
still doing better. I mean, obviously, Claude is out for some time now, and Anthropic
Yeah.
LLM models are even much better. So anyway, if my
So
personal
personally, I think that
yeah, my personal 2 cents. That's the last thing I'm gonna say. I mean, I was a little worried. I was thinking why Google is doing this. Obviously, to disrupt the market, right? I mean, Claude Code is not free,
yeah,
obviously, and it's not open source.
yeah,
And second attribute could be, I mean, Google wants to collect more data. I mean, I think this is a
yeah,
strategy for them
obviously.
to collect more data so that they can build better models.
Yeah. So also, I was thinking, generally speaking, that the guys
Mm,
at Claude, they are more, they seem to be more technical focused than
mm,
business focused. I mean, Google is always coming from the business angle.
mm,
OpenAI right now, I think they're more focused on business
mm.
angle. But the guys at Claude, I think they are
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
sort of
which is true
engineering
though,
focused.
because
They
I
want,
think Claude is only popular among technical community. If you talk to some non-technical person about
yeah,
Claude, they'll
yeah.
say, "What is it?" Yeah,
They,
right. Yeah.
they
Mm,
don't know what to do.
hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I also like the fact that they've carved out that niche for
Yeah,
themselves.
that's
I mean,
correct.
they are very popular in technical skills. All the developers I know, they
Yeah,
use Claude. They don't use
right.
OpenAI. All practically
Yeah,
all, right? They use OpenAI. They use Claude. Yeah. So, which is
yeah,
good for them.
yeah,
I like that. So Google can play, but I guess these guys already have their
yeah, yeah.
stronghold.
True.
So talking about Claude, I think the first story I have here for today is Claude
Hmm.
Artifacts. So, Anthropic Claude Artifacts. So it is a no-code
Hmm.
AI app. Now, it enable users to build and share interactive AI app via chats. No coding or API setup required. Apps can be shared via links with billing handled per user, not creator. This is where I find it very
Very
interesting
interesting.
because yeah. So let's say I go on
Mm-hmm.
Artifacts and I build
Mm-hmm.
an app. I built a note taker
Mm-hmm.
app, right? And then I build the app and I publish it on Play
Mm-hmm.
Store. When users use the app, they don't I I don't pay for their usage.
User,
Right?
that means
They
users
pay
have to
for
be
their
sort of a
usage.
registered Claude users then.
Yes, they have to be sort of registered cloud users. Yeah. So, which makes it
Yeah,
very
yeah,
interesting. I think it sort of like
yeah.
changes the dynamic a
Hmm.
little bit, right? Changes the dynamic a little bit because also, this is very non-technical app, so anybody can build something with it. So you can just go
Mm,
interactive, you just interact with it and build
mm,
your app, right? But then that bit of that bit of bill handling changes everything.
mm.
So everybody is building
Yeah,
this
so I think
AI
we
tool
few
that
weeks
helps you
back,
build
didn't we
app.
cover a story about Perplexity doing something, Perplexity apps? I think they have something very
Yeah,
similar.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think I'm trying to share the link to
yeah,
the news. So
yeah.
I think where the difference comes in is in the I mean I just finished talking about how they are not business focused, but then I'm seeing this which is kind of business focused. But yeah, I
Mm.
mean
No, I think it's good. It's
I
very
like that they
interesting.
bring
These guys are carving out another sort of space. Like so we have sort of two extreme ends, right? And one extreme end we're like a software developers building apps, right? And using
yeah,
this agents and copilots and stuff. Another extreme end we have this Vive coding platforms, V zeros and stuff, right? Which is helps you sort of build full transformative
yeah,
stuff. Um, so they found sort
yeah.
of a middle ground in here is that, hey, I don't want that kind of extreme fancy app. I just have this a specific problem that I want to solve. And I want to create a nice little web app for that. So for an example, I remember before a couple of weeks back, I went for a vacation, remember? And I was playing with Perplexity Lab and I
Yeah.
created an app saying, hey, here are my dates, here are the location I'm going. Do a search and find all the interesting tourist spot that I can visit and map it for this next 3 days I'm going to be here, an interactive Google map with details. So it's created sort of interacting Google Maps that I can now
Wow.
share with friends saying that, hey, here is our game plan and here are the places we're going.
Wow.
That's sort of nice, right? Instead of
Wow.
listing out things.
Very
So all
nice.
this is now possible. Yeah, totally. Totally. Um, all right. So next story I got is
Wow.
another coding agents. Obviously, everybody's building agents. So we GitHub
Yeah.
we had this. I never saw this news before, so it caught my attention this week. So Copilot coding agent. So I use GitHub Copilot a lot. So Copilot coding agent is something that they had it for. Now they opened up for the Copilot business subscribers. I don't think I am, so I don't have access to this yet. But one very interesting thing is now this sort of runs on your GitHub. So the Copilot is kind of very similar idea what we had with Dev Agent. Man, we were years ahead than our competitors. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you're
Hey.
now you're going to see Copilot as sort of your team member on your repo, and if you use GitHub issues, you can assign that issue to this Copilot coding agent now, and it can sort of work on it, like sort of like Devin and how Tubli and
Oh
Dev
wow.
Agent works too. The interesting thing I thought, and I think it's
Yeah.
smart, I could have done that, I didn't, is that it's an autonomous and sandbox execution. So what Copilot Dev Agent, the coding agent does is that it sort of uses GitHub's action sort of environment. So we use GitHub Actions as a
Yeah.
CI/CD sort of deployment, right? It creates their own sandbox environment. So this coding agent sort of clones your repo,
Yeah.
makes coding changes on that, and creates a pull request for you, so that they
Oh,
still
wow.
have this human in the loop sort of review. So pull request, review feedback, all of that flow can all run inside GitHub now. Um, so
Oh, wow.
that's sort of interesting. Yeah, I feel like they use.
That looks like a lot. And then this
Yeah, go ahead.
is from Google,
No,
right?
this is
I
from
mean, the product is
GitHub.
from
GitHub. So GitHub slash
GitHub,
Microsoft. That's a Microsoft story. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Microsoft. Yeah. That's
yeah.
interesting.
So sort of Copilot coding agent,
That's very
which sort of now within your repo.
yeah.
I think GitHub has a tremendous benefit of what you call sort of enterprise being enterprise ready. Let me tell you what do we mean by that. So most of the organization uses GitHub Enterprise, right? I mean, GitHub as their repository.
Yeah.
So they already
Yeah.
all the enterprises thing, they're always concerned about security, and rightly so, right? But they already have validated and
Yeah.
gave GitHub access to their enterprise, right? They already have this setup ready. So anytime GitHub
Yeah.
makes new tool introductions, it becomes super easier for organizations to start using it versus,
Integrate. Yeah.
oh, I have to go to a different product, different tool, give them the permission to my repo, add them to that. There's lots of hoops these other companies have to go through. Classic distribution.
Yeah.
Right? So GitHub has a distribution channel that they can flip
Yeah.
the button and enable all these agents. That is a
Wow.
tremendous advantage in this space.
Yeah.
If
So
a
they can
company
sell
has to
it the
choose
way
between, yeah,
they sold
exactly.
it
If
as a
company have to
suite.
choose
So you just
between yeah, Devin a coding agent or now Copilot coding agent, Copilot coding agent
yeah,
will be just a click for them to activate. Versus Devin, they
yeah.
probably have to go through multiple hoops.
There are multiple steps integrating. Oh wow. So what does this now mean for other guys like new players in the industry, people like Claude, Anthropic, OpenAI, and the rest of the guys coming into that space?
Yeah,
I'm
Claude, I think
just
that's
trying
why
to.
Claude is doing good because Cursor has that as a default, right? Um, so I know Claude gets tremendous revenue out of Cursor and other Windsurfer and all other coding tools that are pretty standard now.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like it's going to be very interesting for Google to kind of carve a space out. They they might have a bit of a
Yeah.
challenge to get there. I know on the other hand though, Gemini is very popular on the office sort of automation tools. Again, distribution channel, right? Most of the organization uses G Suite, right? And in their cases,
Yeah.
enabling Gemini to access their email or automate calendar schedule and all that stuff that you've been talking about with the story you'll cover, right? So on the enterprise side,
Yeah.
Gemini having a much easier transition to get adopted because it's another flip bit, right? Enable Gemini and everybody in your
Yeah.
organization gets Gemini access. Distribution
Yeah.
channel, that's
Yeah.
the key word here.
Distribution channel. That's
Mm.
interesting. So I think the next story I have here is also very interesting because I find it interesting. 2020, it was the web dev guys. I mean, everybody's talking about Vue.js. We had communities like Facebook Developer Circles, heavily focused on web. We are talking about
Mhm.
web involvement and the rest of the thing. But since the AI started, it's as if web guys have been in the background because I mean everybody's talking about replacing developers and oh, and you remember that most of the guys that play, especially in the front end
Mhm.
web space, are mostly like junior and intermediate
Mhm.
guys. They kind of get started in that space before they grow into doing other more technical
Mhm.
stuff, right? So not as if front end is not technical,
Mhm.
but you get what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean.
yeah,
In case if you are
yeah.
listening like you're front end developer.
You're gonna
Yeah.
upset few
So
people today.
I find it
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I just pray I don't. So Microsoft unveiled this thing called NL Web. So it's an open source initiative aimed at simplifying the integration of natural language interfaces into websites, enabling users to interact with site content conversationally by leveraging so
This is
they
very
do this by
cool.
leveraging existing web
Very
standards like
cool.
schema.org and RSS. Yeah, very cool. So the NL Web allows developers to create AI-powered experiences that power user queries through language models, performances, and searches. So now, just to cut this whole thing down, right, instead of giving you, so the idea here is that I can use this to create. If you've gone to I'm trying to remember a website that has this as an example. So you enter the website, you see a little chat box by the
Mm.
end. Now you are not chatting with your customer service. You are not requesting for customer service assistant or you are not chatting with a customer rep. What you are simply doing is you are querying the bots for the content of the
Sure.
website. So let's say you want to know about the particular products that they
Mm.
own. All you need to do is to query the bot instead of you going through endless pages. So you can say, oh, page one says our our software tools. You enter software tools, you see open source software tools. Instead of going through that net, that process, you can just simply search on it. So I think another example is that right now I'm taking a course on Audacity. So Audacity is a learning platform, right? So if you go on that platform for the course I am taking, it's a course on AI. I can quickly ask, there's a chatbot by the side for me. I can quickly ask the chatbot, hey, can you tell me about this that I did in study two? So the chatbot has knowledge of everything that I'm learning on that course. So this model, this protocol, this thing, this NL developers to quickly create these things and make it possible. Now, it doesn't also end there. Creating this thing or using this NL web, it was to query through their website using language models, but then they can also, it also means that their website is now more visible to agents because of course everything is now discoverable by the agents. So
Oh yeah,
remember
this is a
how
huge
some
problem. It's a huge problem. I mean,
yeah,
so with our BizDev agent, we try to do the similar thing, right? Try to understand the
yeah,
context of the web page.
yeah.
So something
So
initiative like this, so making agents more readable for AI agents is, or no, web pages more readable for AI agents is going to be win for automation.
yeah, it's going to be win for automation. This is like NL Web is like another
Yeah.
one. Like if you can remember, I think like a month ago we covered LLM.txt, right? So that's also like right. So this is fully open source. I think also LLMS.txt is also fully open source. But yeah, if you're a front end web developer, work with this. Tell us what your experience is like in the comments, and then yeah, I
Yeah,
would really like
yeah.
to see people use it. I may try this
Yeah,
myself just to see
and
how.
I see in your notes in here already companies like TripAdvisor, Shopify, and other even Bryce are already using it, so which is good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
which is really
yeah.
really good.
Eventbrite, Shopify, yeah,
I do see though again because I'm skeptical about this because I know there are platforms out there who doesn't want to play nice, so there will be platforms who will not use this because they don't want to expose their data to agents because they want.
So I mean, if the data is already on your website, I mean, it's already exposed. I mean, Gemini can always scroll it.
Yeah, no, I mean, so they have this nice, interesting balance, though, right? Like, so let's take a LinkedIn for an example, right? I know we are going live on LinkedIn. Maybe I shouldn't say
Yeah,
this, um, uh, but LinkedIn is going to open parts of your profile for Google that bot to index, right? So that your profile shows up in Google search results. Sort of makes
yeah,
sense. But
yeah,
you will not,
yeah. That
you are
makes
not
sense.
allowed to scrape their page. That's sort of illegal. They will not allow, and they have sophistication built
Yeah,
in that, and web scrapers will fail for some of the sites. So, but what essentially it's doing is that it's creating a sort of
yeah,
universal protocol for web scraping, right? In a way, right? So now that makes it super
yeah.
easy for agents to sort of read this, which is becoming
So
very very interesting too. You want to, right? Because we talked about this a few weeks back too, right? I mean, lots of folks also discover your sources from ChatGPT now, right? I mean, hardly go to Google search result. So
yeah,
if ChatGPT
yeah,
wants to show your stuff, I mean, this agent needs to read stuff from your site. So this sort of protocol will definitely help. Um, it's funny though, a few weeks back, somebody
yeah.
shared what ChatGPT thinks about Tubelian, and I was pretty impressed that it knows lots of stuff about our tool. Uh, I don't know whether it's making
That's
recommendation to other
interesting.
that you go to show Tubelian for BizDev agent. I would be happy if it does, but it knows
It
about
does,
what we're
yeah.
doing, and I don't remember we doing anything explicitly to feed that information, um, but that's the
Yeah,
world we're
we
heading into,
didn't,
right?
yeah.
So I mean, yeah. Okay, I have a couple of two shots.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
interesting.
have a couple of short stories that I will cover. Then you can jump in. First one is a quickie, which is so we talked about agent-to-agent protocol a few weeks back. something that I'm heavily interested in, because I think this opens up lots of interesting possibilities and opportunities for AI agents to work together. And that's one of the things that we are exploring with Agent Link Network. I'm hoping to release soon. So Google finally decided. I mean, something like this, when Google does, I feel very good about them. I mean, it's a good stuff. So Google gifted the whole agent-to-agent protocol to Linux Foundation, obviously big mammoth open source organization. The whole idea here is to sort of make this a full-blown open source project so that it stands out, and we essentially have other companies sort of come in and participate, because this could be a very critical next step. I know MCP got lots of traction and it's one of the default standard now. I hope agent to agent becomes also the standard. So because there's a true interoperability of AI agents, and all they were looking for is that sort of a neutral vendor agnostic. Linux is probably the best way to do that, to sort of have this SDK evolve separately and become like a good thing for the whole sort of industry. So that's
So here, I think I just have like sort of a question. So I have two questions. One is in simpler forms, what is really agent to agent protocol? And then the other question is it different from MCP? Yeah, because I mean,
So I get the question all the time. I get the question all the time. So MCP is sort of what did you say? I think you said it. It's like an USB-C for LLMs, right? A way to plug in external data sources to your model. MCP is really good for that. So in this particular context, when you're building an agent, which is a combination of prompt, data, and model, and prompt, data, and model, to access those data when you're building an agent, you're probably going to be using some sort of MCP servers, a server or multiple servers.
Okay.
So let's say you are building an agent that will extract some information from Salesforce. I don't know why I came up with Salesforce, but let's go with that. So there might be, I'm sure there are hundreds of them, but there is an MCP server that knows how to talk to Salesforce. Okay. So you will use that MCP server so that you don't have to manually figure out what the API calls are and all that. Those are abstracted out for you. You just get the MCP server. MCP server exposes a set of tools. Like, here is a search tool that we're using, which you can search your contacts in Salesforce. Here is a update tool using which you can update the status of your project or your lead. So then you expose those tools to your LLM model, which understands how to call these tools. Now you have an integration with Salesforce. Your large language model can talk to Salesforce. Okay. So now you have an agent. Now to build this agent, you can probably use any of this agentic framework like ADK, LangChain, LangGraph, what have you. Okay. Now that's your agent. Now, before A2A, there was now let's say I built an agent using DSpy, another agentic platform. Now we have these two agents that are completely implemented to different frameworks, right? Maybe different languages. There was no standard way for these agents to talk to each other. Because what if I build a Gmail agent that can read emails and stuff, and you have a Salesforce AI agent? What if I want to build an AI workflow that will say, anytime somebody replied to my cold outreach email, it should create a contact in my Salesforce. Let's say I want to build this AI workflow. To do that, ideally, I would like to have these two agents sort of combine them, assemble together to create my workflow. So A2A will allow you to do that.
Oh, wow. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
So it's sort of another dumb way to think about this. It's not dumb. It's actually a very smart way to think about this too. I mean, that's what it is. What A2A does is that it sort of opens a REST interface for your agent, like a REST API. And since REST and HTTP standard, then anyone can call each other back.
Anyone can call each other,
There are some details in that, but at high level, that's what they are.
That's what they are.
All right, cool. So let me share this story link. This is a good movement happened. So that's maybe I already did. Sorry. Okay. The next quick one I have, then I'll hand over to you. So we all have used deep research, right? I think ChatGPT came up with that first. Now every other tool has that. And I use that heavily. That's one of the things we use, just being very transparent to sort of collect all the news, and then we filter. Precious and I get together and we filter some news.
Yeah.
So I always wanted this, that there was no way to make this through API call. Deep research was not available through API, but now OpenAI actually made that available, which is
Mhm.
a super, super, super cool. I mean, there are lots of interesting stuff you could build with this. So now you can agent style, you can do research workflow. Like what you do with deep research from ChatGPT, you can now do through API. So with one single
Oh
high
wow.
level prompt, your model will be able to now, like deep research, able to kind of break it down into multiple tasks, can run web searches, can use Python interpreter to run your code, and return a very structured citation, including links, report back to you. So
Wow.
if we get a time, Precious, I really like to do this to sort of automate this whole flow and have, which was a video generation, maybe VO3, to add a AI sort of co-host in our podcast. That have
Yeah.
completed real time and can respond to conversation. I think that would be super cool. So anyway, so they
That
created
was
this they
cool.
created two fine-tuned model for this. It's called O3 Deep Research, which is sort of highest quality. That means people have more money. And there are lighter and faster called O4 Mini. You can use those models, and this all work with your response API. So essentially, it will work out of the box. You don't have to make API changes. And obviously, deep research does take a lot of time to execute. So you can also specify and run these queries asynchronously. So fire something off, and it will run. One last thing, which I think makes this even more powerful, is that can it can also use MCPs. That means when you're running deep research, you can also sort of plug in your MCP server that connects to your private documentation, maybe an MCP server for Google Drive. So it can also even use that to scan Google documents and do deep research on your Google Drive.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I think this is super
Wow.
powerful.
So this, I think this is going to unlock a lot of things.
Oh yeah, totally.
I mean, anytime there's a new technology, like a new research or a new protocol or something, I'm always excited because I know I'm going to start seeing people building. Hey, I built this using this. I built this using this. I mean,
Yeah.
I I see what people do with VO3, and I'm like, oh wow, this is cool.
I mean, how
Because
many
I'm
how
seeing,
many
I was talking to
jobs
a friend.
require at the fundamental level? I know there are other complexity at the fundamental level. Sort of every knowledge work has this aspect of looking up information, right? And
Yeah,
that requires sometimes scanning through hundreds of manuals, documents, policy documents. If you're an HR professional, all
yeah,
this takes time, and something like deep research will definitely speed things up for you. So it's very, very
yeah. I
useful.
mean, I mean, there are lawyers. I talked to
Oh,
some maybe lawyers or people that work in consulting, right?
mm,
So for example, maybe they have done a case 7 years ago,
mm,
and then this is 2025, and another person comes with a case, and maybe the particular lawyer that worked on that case in a particular law firm is way gone,
mm.
like long gone.
Yeah,
Now, the new
right.
lawyer who is young now is trying to retrieve this
Yeah,
information. So, for someone that lives here in Africa, maybe the information is stored on a piece of paper. You have to dig in a piece of paper of things that were done like 5, 7 years ago, right? It's a lot of work. But let's imagine a guy comes in, build an AI agent for them, and they scan all these documents, put it on the cloud. I mean, retrieving information is going to be very easy,
yeah,
right? Because it's a huge part of, just like you said, huge part of modern day job, retrieving information, right? And then it's going to be easier. The gap between the information you need and when you need it is going to become smaller. And then when it does, I, I want to see what we are going to be doing
so
by
this is
then.
where we used to talk a long back, right? I mean, we're getting to the point where knowing is just a prompt away, right? I don't know this.
Yeah.
versus, okay, I have information for you. It's
Versus.
just a prompt away. So the skills
Yeah.
becoming sort of the transition here is so interesting. The skill set becoming, do you have a skill to ask the right question? Because if you can structure the right
Yeah.
question, which is sort of a context programming and prompt engineering, what have you, is what makes the
Yeah.
difference now, right? Because if you can ask the right question, put the right context in there, these tools are so powerful, it will fetch the answer for you, right? In seconds.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
It will. It will.
Yeah.
And I was talking to, I read a tweet where someone made an analysis and said the reason why people can't vibe code anything is because people don't know how to
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, okay, because the person really claimed that you can do anything with vibe coding. And if you can't do it, it's because you can't think. That if
Mm,
you can think in first principle and break your problem down,
mm.
that the AI can really solve anything, which I find very interesting because I mean, everybody's talking about learning how to think because AI can think and you need to do the things that AI cannot do. But do we really have the ability to think and break things down
But
in a
it's
way that
actually
we can
true,
easily use
though.
this?
We haven't covered that research paper. I did see that. I don't know why it didn't make the cut for us. I think some was it MIT or Stanford, maybe somewhere where they said that actually using ChatGPT over the years, over months, is actually making people more dumber.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I mean, we're getting lazy though, right? I mean,
I
I
saw
it's like, why should I think when we all have it to do this? I mean, when
I saw that
ChatGPT
too. I
goes
mean,
down, it's just a drag, right? It's impossible. I can't even
yeah.
imagine now. Okay, no AI available, no assistant. You have to coach something. It's going to be hard.
I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because these days
Yeah.
I don't bother about spelling. Something like
Oh yeah,
spelling,
dude.
I don't bother
Oh,
about
dude.
spelling.
Yeah,
Whether
yeah,
it's right or
yeah,
wrong, I just type out the things
yeah,
I have in my head and I give it to ChatGPT and I say, just help me structure
yeah,
this, correct all spelling errors, and then I just fix it that way.
yeah,
So it's interesting. I don't know if it's killing my brain or not, but
yeah,
I guess that's the world we live
yeah,
in right
yeah,
now, 2025.
yeah. You're up. I think you have
So
a next story.
um, yeah, so the story I have is from 11 Labs.
Mhm.
I wish there was a way for me. Maybe I will look for a way to play that video, the video from 11
Mhm.
Labs. Maybe I can load it. I can next time I have a new story like this. I just load the
Mhm.
video before
Mhm.
time so I can just play it. So they released this new model called I'm trying to remember what they call the name. They call it 11
Mhm.
AI. So 11 AI is a voice to action model that you just say something
Mhm.
and then it goes to do that. So imagine when you wake up in the morning and then you're like, oh, 11 AI, can you help me read out my calendar for the
Mhm.
day? It reads out everything you have in your calendar for the day, and you're like, oh, okay, help me send an
Mhm.
email. Tell my first meeting guys that I will be 5 minutes
Mhm.
late. So it sends that email for you. So it is voice to action, right? Now, which I find very interesting, especially for developers. Like I said, anytime there's a new technology, you start seeing people build stuff sort of on top
Mhm.
of it,
Mhm.
right? And we've not had like very massive break in text model
Mhm. Mhm.
recently, but then I think voice and video models, we've been seeing a lot of things happening in that space,
Mhm.
right? And I've been wondering what this also means for
Mhm.
developers, where you have an app that people can just say, "Oh, do this for me," and the app can be able to do this. So I'm trying to think of it as someone that live in Lagos, Nigeria.
Mhm.
Here, I can simply say, um, I order my food. I just get my food and I go to the app and I order my
Mhm.
food, so I can have an app where I can say, hey, this is what I feel like eating today. Do you mind placing an
Mhm.
order and then take the money from my
Mhm.
wallet,
Mhm.
right? I goes to take the money from my wallet. So I also imagine a model that we do a lot of fintechs. Fintech is, I think, I don't like saying it's easy to do because it is not easy to do
Mhm.
fintech, but a lot of people here are doing fintech because it's easier to charge people from a service instead of telling them to pay for a
Yeah,
service. I mean,
yeah.
when in an economy like ours. So I'm also imagining a situation where um, I'm trying to pay for something, or maybe I paid for something, and then it takes that into
Mhm.
record, and then it helps me keep track of, I just talk about, I have an app in my pocket on my phone that keeps track of my spending through voice, or voice to spend, or something like that. So I think it's going to be very interesting seeing things that people can build on top of this in the coming months. And I'm really excited. I want to see.
It's cool.
I want to see what
I
can
think
happen.
they're one of those. So I'll be very honest. I mean, I don't play with much of voice models.
That-
Voice
yeah,
models. But I know 11 Labs is one of those pretty cutting edge out there. Right? They're top of the line. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
I saw
I think
I
they're
saw
like,
a very interesting hack though, that maybe I should try this with
yeah,
our Whisper. So we do have used Whisper, the OpenAI's that voice model, Whisper, I think that's what it's
yeah,
called. Somebody did an interesting hack, how they charge you by the minute or second of the audio.
okay,
So somebody did a hack.
yeah,
It's completely unrelated to 11 Labs, but I just remembered. I think this is super cool. I mean, I think our audience gonna enjoy this. Somebody figured out a way to speed the audio. You know how we sometimes listen in 1x, 2x, 1.5x. I think
yeah,
that person figured out how
yeah.
to and wrote a small Python utility code to speed the audio. So 30 seconds video
Okay.
audio went 15 seconds and uploaded to Whisper.
Oh,
He said that quality is spot on still. It got every word, but I just saved money. Because
oh,
model
wow.
doesn't care how fast you talk, right? Model doesn't care. It's still going to process it,
Yeah.
which I thought was, well, this is a really cool hack. So speed up the audio before sending to Whisper and save some money. Uh, okay, so do we have time? I know we're going for. I have one more story. Should we
Think,
cover or?
yeah, I think we have this. We've spent 41 minutes. So I think we can just go over it
Okay,
quickly.
go.
Maybe I should go over mine. Maybe I should go over mine
Okay,
first, because mine is very
go.
simple. And yeah, mine is very simple. So Facebook is asking users to um, give them access to the pictures and their galleries, and unpublished
Mhm.
pictures that you just took with your friends.
Why they're asking? They
And a lot
already
of
have
people have
it. They already have access. Why is they asking? Just being nice.
I don't know. So maybe just be nice.
Oh,
Just trying
unpublished
to
photos. Okay, unpublished.
unpublished photos, yeah, unpublished photos,
Oh,
yeah. So maybe the ones you have in your camera rolls, you've not released, you've not published on Instagram or Facebook
not
yet.
good.
So
Not
they're asking you,
nice.
oh, do you want us to use AI to make this nicer? Do you want us to use AI to add a cap or add this or add that? So when you say yes, you give them access, and then they go in and they use their data. So why I added this is because we've had conversations around ethics. So ethics and
Oh,
why
this
people
is
are using.
without asking their permission. So it's Facebook. I'm reading a story here. So Facebook is using the private unpublished user photos to train their AI model.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's what they're trying to do. So I mean, it's
They're very
ethics,
aggressive in the
right?
market. I know we didn't cover the story. Have you heard the
Yeah,
story about how they're poaching all the
poaching.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
yeah. I had it. I had to remove it at some point. It was part of the story
the
that didn't make it
salary
because yeah,
numbers
but
are
they had to.
wild, crazy how much money they're throwing
Yeah,
at this.
yeah.
I wish
They
I was
literally
data
took together
scientist
built
cutting edge,
one
make
model.
multiple $1 million right now. That's crazy.
Oh,
All right,
oh
so
wow! I mean,
yeah,
it's not late.
yeah,
We are still in day zero.
which could be an issue. Yeah, that's a problem now for someone else to worry about. Okay, so the last story, quick one. I mean, we always like to cover open source stories, and I want to make sure that we always blend it in. So just a quick context for our audience
Yeah,
in here. I'm going to make it. I'll go fast here. So obviously, we remember last year, December, when DeepSeek released their DeepSeek R1, right? That's gonna sort of change the
yeah,
perspective. I know Nvidia stock crashed and everything happened because they figured out a very unique way to. I mean, it's a good thing, right? They advanced. They showed there is an art of possibility. They figured out a unique way to use sort of a strong chain of thought reasoning model that sort of use a reinforcement learning, and obviously we all know that they perform really well. I mean, this model does really well with limited resources and training data. Now, they
yeah.
did open source their stuff, But what they did is that they open sourced the model weights, which is all the parameters, like billion, trillion, whatever the number was. But they withhold the training code and hyperparameters. So they didn't share how they trained the model. So so to close the transparency gap, Hugging Face sort of announced OpenRI in January 2025. Okay, an open science initiative. So essentially figure out that can be sort of reverse engineer this and figure out how they train. Because remember, having parameters is not enough. You actually need to, I mean, I think that's the juice, that's the secret sauce. How did you train your model? What's your pipeline looks like? Because that's where things mix a lot of, that's where you introduce, that's what gets you high quality model. So they finally reached sort of a complete reproduction of the DeepSeek R1 reasoning capability. So they're able to reverse engineer and build an open RI project that performs equally and similar to DeepSeek's R1,
Yeah.
and they have open source everything. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so this is sort of a great way to.
So is this good? Is it bad?
It's
I mean,
this is good for
for
open source, right? We wanted to
okay,
reproduce and make sure we want to understand how we can build models like this. So our open R1
so
should be as parallel as DeepSeek R1.
oh, I see.
So they
I
have open
see.
source the pipeline, which includes training scripts, high quality reasoning. So if you are a data science student or interested in this space, look at this project, because this is going to give you lots of insights of truly seeing how you can build high quality reasoning models.
Yeah. So yeah, guys, check it out. Open source is good. I had interesting conversations over the weekend with my friends who are heavily into open source, and a lot of stuff's going on in that space. So yeah, check it
Mhm.
out and then let us know what you think in the comments. All
All
right.
right.
So thank you everyone for joining. We have 20 people live with us. People are
Oh, wow.
watching from LinkedIn, people are watching from YouTube, others are watching on Twitter. So if you are
Appreciate you there. Oh, that we had got so much good connection. I didn't know. All right. Thanks, guys. It was awesome. We'll see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.